Thank you, Mr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia ji and Pradeep ji for this debate and discussion. It's more of a learning for me and understanding the issues. I had been involved in discussions with the government at the time of FTA and RCEP. Pradeep ji also participated in some of our discussions. And after a lot of debate, there was issues which had been decided by the government. I would just like to tell two, 3 points here, Mr. Ahluwalia. One thing is, I think government is very clear on that we want to integrate into global value supply chain, and our trade partnership and agreement and with the European and US is very important. We are interested in signing free trade FTAs and trade agreement with particularly USA, which is a large trading partner for us. So there is no question that we would be out of any negotiation with US on any point of time. But one thing I just would like to mention is about the thing is that what is there on the table for India, that is not very clear to me. I don't know, government might be having that information, but at present in the public domain or my discussions with people is that we are talking upon the concept, and nobody will deny that multiple trade platforms, agreements, integration, bilateral trade agreement, they are very good for any upcoming country or for their economy. So what is there for us on the table is important. Second is that thing is that the government at presently, we are thinking, as Mr. Ahluwalia, you also said that we need to not only look into trade agreements, only trade policy as a issue for economic development. We have to see about our industrial policy, logistic policy, infrastructure policy, e-commerce policy, electronic manufacturing, digital location. All these are very important. And what our industry have been telling with our experience on FTA and thing is that domestically, a lot of reforms are still pending in our economic sector, whether it is land reforms, whether it is labor reforms. We have seen the way agriculture reforms, which were everybody on the economic front agreed, but the political compulsions did not allow those reforms to take place. Even labor notification is pending. So issues of political concern, political economy is very important. And our domestic industry say that first we have to strengthen our logistic cost is so high. So we are working on this route that we have to strengthen our industrial policy. All these policies the government is working on. Due to this COVID and other thing, it has been delayed, but otherwise the government was in a very advanced stage in putting out industrial policy, which is at present only we are following 1948 industrial policy. That has to be amended. It was last amended in 1991. The new policy draft framework is ready, but it has not been implemented. New logistic policy is required so that cost of transportation is reduced. So these are the things that the government at present is thinking. They are also very important and are precursor of then only we can open up the industries to such kind of competitions. But still, we cannot be out of the game and rules of the trade at global levels, because we are not the deciding factor on the rules of the game. Rules of the games are decided by many countries. And the last point that I would like to say is about this, is about the concern. I've seen the discussion. Amrita ji was also there, I think, on the WTO negotiation, etc. And we saw in earlier times when WTO agreements, we were part of that, and agriculture was opened up and included, services was included. How at times those international platforms were used to restrict trade and export from some countries. So whether we have committed on the renewable energy, carbon emission, carbon footprints, but I am also part of the corporate sector and chartered accountant, we have seen this requirements of ESG, environment sustainability, growth, etc., and then all these internalizing environmental costs, etc. At times, they are used as a restriction of international trade, because at technological level, even in green hydrogen, etc., technological level, we are short. So these are the concerns that also has to be taken care of, that how we build up the standards to meet the global standard, which will be set up in these negotiations, which can be counterproductive to some of our industries. This is also a concern, which if the cuts and you are taking this forward, so these concerns can also be looked into the papers, instead of focusing only on its importance, which is, I am very clear that the government is clear on this issue, that we need to integrate, but when and how is the question. And the last point I would also mention, for those who are here from the corporate sector or the economic sector or business communities, about the issues of global taxation. We are facing several problems: base shifting, profit transfers. These are very complex situations where a slight changes in the global taxation requirements can be very counterproductive to our resource generation. And these have been used by many countries. So these concerns are also to be incorporated into our digital marketing, electronic manufacturing, e-commerce, all those things, and localization of data. So it's a complex issue that the government is having on its table. So I think these issues, taxation policies, domestic reforms, what is there on the table, how these global standards on emission, carbon footprints are meted out in these negotiations. So with these things, more clarity is required, and platforms like cuts and etc. can help the government and all of us to understand the nitty-gritty of this. But ultimately, we agree that we have to go to global integration. Our manufacturing sector can only progress where there is a global integration, like automobile industry or pharmaceutical industries, generic medicine, etc. Those industrial sectors where we have integrated with the global industries, we have seen a huge growth in those sectors. Briefly, I just want to underline one thing is that as Mr. Ahluwalia said, that raising custom duty had been counterproductive, and for our MSME sector, we have seen that sometimes increasing the commodity prices has become a counterproductive, and government is moving towards slowly reducing it. Second thing that I want to mention here is that as Mr. Mehta also said, that taxation is a part of this IPF, and that's very exciting for all of us, because one thing I would like to mention here is some of the global wealth drain, people migrating from one country to other country, is because of difference in the taxation, whether corporate or individual, etc. So if this negotiation is an important area where we can work on at the international level, so our taxation is required to be aligned with the global level, so that some kind of shifting of wealth drain does not take place, and this is an important area where we can work. The third is at the domestic level, I think the government is also focusing, and we also need to focus through our institutions, where ESG compliance companies' balance sheet should be made, so that investment, etc., also can come. So 3 points that I would like to say.
Thank you very much.